Just before we start, I just a couple of comments on some of the previous speakers, and not starting with you, Aidan, because you're the last person I heard. You brought up that important point that I would have been aware of from 2013 onwards, which is, yes, sometimes the grant seems more expensive than going the other way, but you're probably not aware that, like, we would have a very strict quality system in place for oversight, and there is protection there for the homeowner, that if things do go pear-shaped, that they have a resolution centre, effectively a call centre, and you can actually get people. We have inspectors. We have 50% of my programme are actually inspected. Also, from a personal view, I always think it's quite interesting that we use the BEO as a tool to measure the uplift in a house, but what we can never really take account of is the happiness and the comfort factor that a retrofit actually brings. It's not tangible until the homeowner has gone through it, and then by word of mouth they'll convey to the next person, you don't understand the difference this has made in upgrading. So I think Karen or Anya might have mentioned that, yes, Karen actually, that you would consider you were saying we'll spend X amount of money and maybe go that extra bit, and then you don't have those regrets anymore, even though maybe replacing windows might technically take 20 years to get payback, which is in a financial equation, but the happiness and comfort that it gives you is not quantifiable, but is very tangible. I also, on Karen's point on PV, I do think there's tendency to overstack roofs with PV. It's good to feed that back to, no pun intended, to the PV company, just to say, by the way, we've got 10, but looks like 4 would have done us. There would be a bit more change on that. There'd be a bit more comfort from companies that they would be giving you enough energy sources. And also delighted to hear that ventilation is being recognised. It's been long not an issue for Irish houses because they were so drafty. So now we have the opposite, where we have very, very warm houses, and airtight and airflow is a problem. So it is probably going to be something that we'll deal with in the future. Anyway, that's just my own quick viewpoints. I have been working in SEAI for 6 years. I started with the BEO programme, so I'm fairly au fait. Well, I was the time for a couple of years spent in that team. It's a great team. And then I moved to another brilliant team, which is the oldest programme in SEAI, which is now called the Free Energy Upgrade Scheme. But we still call it the Warmer Homes, but don't tell Markhams I was saying that. Next slide, please, Deirdre, if you wouldn't mind. We are an energy poverty programme. We started as a community employment scheme, actually, nearly over 20 years ago. And it's like a government tool. We've evolved over time. We're older than SEAI, actually. We became the Greener Warm Home Scheme, then we became the Warmer Home Scheme, and we were predominantly, up until 2018, a shallow measures programme. And we delivered attic and cavity upgrades to homeowners who were in receipt of certain allowances. We have, since the beginning of the scheme, delivered over 140,000 of those upgrades. And then we had a big change in 2018, where the Minister at the time announced, with an eye to the imminent climate action plans afoot, that we would really have to have a deeper intervention in homes. So we've switched over to the standard measures that you're talking about today, which you've all experienced, the speakers, which is external wall insulation and some heating systems. And this year we've actually put in renewable heating systems, heat pumps, into houses. So again, it's great to hear about heat pumps being discussed in such a very clear and understandable way. Also, the budget for Warmer Homes has exponentially jumped from 2018 to 2020. It is now over 110 million. Budget has been promised up to several billion by 2030. And it is now under the spotlight as being the main government tool to demonstrate a retrofit programme that's fully funded. I'll jump onto the next one there. Again, just to let you know, there's certain qualification or eligibilities required to be eligible for the programme. You have to be a homeowner and you have to live in that house. The house has to be built and occupied before the 31st of December 2005. And you have to be in receipt of one of the following welfare payments, which have been in place for quite a while, except for disability, which just joined the cohort there in February. the majority of applicants are on fuel allowance, but we do accept those other allowances there, which is job seekers with a child under 7 or disability with a child under 7, working family payment, domiciliary care, which is a non-means tested. So you just have to be in receipt of that payment. And then a couple of years ago, we had carers allowance. Up until quite recently, you only receive one set of works and you couldn't receive it again. But that's actually been expanded now. The minister announced in February that under certain conditions that the house can be upgraded, a return visit, sorry. And we're a very small team. We work with a customer call centre, and we have a managing agent. In the way Bord Gáis has Balfour Beatty, we have KSN, they do a lot of our technical work. But on the home front, we're actually quite a small little fixture in SEAI. We liaise, we have our governance as referenced earlier. We have a lot of back and forth with legal and contracts, but our main work and business as usual is dealing with either the customer call centre, who handles all the applications and the quality scoring of the contractors, and then the managing agent, they would deal with the contractors directly on technical issues. And I'm in the technical team as well. So I'll be overseeing the actual future evolution of the scheme to take in a greater cohort of houses and more people. That was just to give you an idea of the size of the team. If you want to go on there, Deirdre, sorry. We're actually technically an energy poverty programs kind of setup. So we have the capacity to set up smaller programs within our own umbrella of the free energy upgrades. And one of the pilots that we ran was the Warmth and Wellbeing, which just closed a few months ago. But it was several postal districts in Dublin with a focus on people with COPD. And the target was that we would get homeowners, they would be made eligible they had to, in receipt of a payment, but they actually had a medical condition and they were sanctioned by the HSE. So it was a project with the HSE. And I think it's the most interesting thing about this, so the output is that by keeping your house warmer, there seems to be a demonstrated reduction in COPD in the people who are living in these houses. And that will be a very important report when it comes out in the middle of the year. So it was great to be involved in that, but it has now closed. There is, there's talk maybe in the future that it might be rolled out, that there might be a health eligibility criteria for it, but at the moment we're still on DSP welfare entitlements. I'm not sure if there's another one after this. Oh yeah, sorry, just to give you an idea of the measures that we do, if you want to go back one. So again, these are fully funded. So we would have started measure number 1, which is attic and ceiling, attic and cavity 1 and 2. They're the original measures on the scheme. And we've since then expanded to the following sets of measures, which would be external wall, internal wall, and including in those Drimna crumbling cottages with the sloped ceilings, we would provide a full solution to that as well to make sure there is no coal bridging. We're the only scheme in SEAI that does install gas and oil boilers. It's a pragmatic approach. It's also a statutory obligation, because when you upgrade your house to a certain square metre or coverage of an area, if you go over 25%, we have to appraise the heating system. If the heating system is not suitable, then we'll have to install, and gas is the first option and oil is when there's no other remaining option. We also appraise the house completely for ventilation requirements. We assess it in alignment with the building regulations. So when we leave the house is ventilated to standard. It's, funnily enough, it's the hardest thing to convince homeowners of. They just don't like you putting holes in the wall, but actually it's the health element of it. We are leaving the house in a healthier environment. We do replace windows and doors, but we only do the windows if they're single glazing, and we're also doing the walls. We test every house for the level of air draftiness to make sure we're not leaving it in a sub, that we've made it too airtight. And we do loose fibre and extraction, but less so. We're tending to bypass the extraction of loose fibre and actually cladding out the entire house in EWI if it's achievable. And as I said, this is the first year that we've actually put heat pumps into people who are in technical fuel poverty. So I'm running that pilot at the moment. And again, I'd say towards the end of the year, we should have really good insights into that. But, you know, listening to everybody here this evening, it's great to hear people talking about aspiring to a heat pump, because there is a lot involved in understanding what it does and what it means and how it fits in the context of fabric. So yeah, that's it from me. I'm happy to take any questions.